Hi, John.
Ah, there you are, Philip.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late.
I think Brotherhood
Hmm.
was the first thing I ever wrote for television that actually got made.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't find the credit for you either. So yes, it was your introduction to television. So we watched them in
Here we
production.
go.
We watch Brotherhood first of all.
Granada Ventures. Here we go. Now, how do I work this bloody thing? Episodes. This doesn't seem to be working. I've forgotten how to work this bloody thing.
That's okay.
It doesn't.
Is it the batteries?
This is not happening.
It's not the batteries, is it, John? It's not the batteries at all.
Oh, here we go. Yes.
Oh.
Brotherhood. Here we go.
Brotherhood. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Success.
So
Aeropuerto. Yeah, we're off.
If we pause it at the beginning, we can.
Have you started?
Not yet. Are you able to pause it and just rewind?
Yeah, I'll pause it. Hold on.
So we'll all start from the airport sign at the top. So if everybody just wants to take a few moments to get the episode ready on the opening frame, and then just give people a minute to do that, and then we'll all press play. Anybody's got any technical issues at this point, just let us know. Otherwise, we'll start in about 60 seconds time. Okay.
This must have been shot in Spain, I think.
Yeah, so it might be. I'm not exactly sure it's not one of the shows that I know the best compared to the Persuaders and the New Avengers and things. So I'm sure those watching along might be able to fill in some of the gaps that we might have.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anybody has any trivia about the episodes that they want to share, of course, that's more than welcome.
Yeah, because in those days, everything was done for tuppence.
Yeah.
You know, if there was a scene in Hawaii, they'd stick a couple of palm trees on the back lot at Pinewood, and you know, and somebody would go saying, "Oh God, the heat! Ah, these insects! Oh," and that was good enough.
And
this one, I think, is actually in Spain.
Yeah, it does certainly look like it. Of course, they used the back projection quite a lot, didn't they? And things like that.
But then you can always tell back projection because it was pretty ropey in those days.
Yeah.
Have we started yet?
So we'll start. Oh, we just have one other person log on. Okay, so we're all going to press play on the opening shot. So I'll do a countdown for 5 and we'll press play together. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play.
Tell me when you see a chap in a bowler hat.
Not yet. The plane's just landing at the at the airport now. And yes, now bowler hat. Yes.
Okay.
Character of Hella.
Enter rule.
Yeah, enter rule. Yes.
With a cigar wouldn't be allowed now.
Yeah. Would little character touches like this be in the script, or would it be something that Robert Vaughan would bring?
It would be something with the director and the actor.
And how did you become involved with the Protectors, John? Do you remember that?
I wrote a spec screenplay with a guy called Ronnie Fouracre, now dead alas, who was a director. and a chap called Peter Haig, who wouldn't remember, I'm too young. And Peter had this story. I did this script. Ronnie submitted it to Jerry Anderson. I don't know why. They're now fighting. And Jerry wasn't interested. It was a period piece about a female highway woman in the sort of 17th century. It didn't interest Jerry in the least, but he liked the way it was written. So I was summoned to his house in the Thames Valley. And the first question he asked me was, "Did you write this script?" And I said, "Yes, I did. Yes, yes." "Why do you ask?" He said, "Well, because I get scripts, you know, from people and they've been written by somebody else." Anyway, the show hadn't been commissioned. I was waiting on Lou Gray to give it the green light. And Jerry said, "Look, if Lou green lights it, I'm going to need scripts like that. So here's the deal. Send me a 2-page story. If I like it, I'll commission the script. If the show goes, if I like the script, and if the show goes, I'll buy the script."
Yeah.
So you like the story, you like the script. The show was greenlit, and here we are.
And it opens with a nice little action sequence. Again,
there's me on the screen, yes.
I mean, was it quite nice to, when you were writing the script, did you know Robert Vaughan was cast at that point? How early?
Yes, it was sort of all over the press. It was sort of, believe it or not, this was considered utter glamour. I mean, Robert Vaughan was quite a big star. Larry Dawn Porter had been in Forsyte Saga. Tony Anhole was pretty well known. And so this was kind of England trying to compete with, you know, ritzy American venture shows.
Yeah.
And, you know, Lou was into all that kind of thing. He wanted to, you know, this is a good bit. Yeah, there you go. Ingenious. That's the tracking device.
Yes, it's good. A good idea. Point that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's actually quite a simple story. Sort of jazzed up with a lot of, you know, stuff.
I mean, I think one of the most interesting thing about the Protectors is their 24-minute long episodes. So
yes, very hard to do.
I would have thought they would be.
It's they're not done. I mean, this is a sort of historic thing. Nobody makes 24-minute shows anymore.
No.
Unless they're soaps.
Yeah.
And they do, I mean, you know, some of the soaps are like half an hour. But to do a 30-minute action adventure is unheard of now.
I think it was designed as a bit of an experiment as well, wasn't it? I think by Jerry Anderson, that he wanted a 30-minute adventure series. It was meant to be to differentiate itself from other things that were.
Yes, and I think this was Jerry's first live action series. I think all his stuff before had been puppets.
Yeah, I think he did one live action thing. I think, I think he did live action things, but in terms of sort of stuff that wasn't science fiction based, that, you know, it's something that's quite straight.
Yes.
Played. I think he did one thing in 1960. I think it was a TV, one-off TV episode thing, but that was kind of it. So it's very much sort of new territory for him.
When I wrote it, I lived in a cottage in the country at the time. I was so desperate that it should get to him, because it was all, you know, typed with carbon paper.
Yeah.
I drove up to Elstree, where he was based, hand delivered it to the guy on the gate. So I knew he'd get it. And then waited. Sorry, do you want to discuss any of this stuff going on?
I mean, not unless you have any particular thoughts on the scenes, or I mean, I quite like a little callback Robert does, and he looks behind the door and thinking all something else.
Yes, that's actor stuff. Yeah, that's not in the script.
That was something he made up. Yeah. I mean, when you watched the episode, when you would have seen the episode when it was broadcast, would you sort of notice, how much the actors sort of bring it to life?
So long ago, I honestly can't remember. This is in
1972.
72.
Yeah.
82, 92, 2002. That's 40 years. No, 50 years. Is it 50 years ago?
50 years ago, yes. Yeah, 50th anniversary. Yes, it is. It was it aired on the 6th of October, 72, to be precise.
I probably didn't even see it at the time because I didn't have a television.
Oh, yeah.
I might have gone to my parents to watch it. I think I probably did, actually. Yeah.
And of course, we've got the great Patrick Troughton as the
Yes. It was terrific. I mean, the quality of acting in these things is really remarkable. They're all top British actors.
Yeah.
And there isn't a duff performance in this episode.
No. It's all very, very strong, isn't it? And I mean, of course, you wouldn't have written the script with knowing Patrick was going to be in it. You would have written it.
No. That was all much later.
Yeah.
Who's the little guy with the bowler hat?
I have got him somewhere in my notes. John Gaysborn as Hella.
Ah.
Oh, sorry, John Casborn. Could be my own writing there. Casborn. I think he'd done a few little things like the Avengers and an episode of the
Yes, I mean there was a whole kind of stable of actors who appear endlessly in these kind of shows.
Absolutely.
It's almost like a sort of repertory company. They just sort of endlessly recycled.
I think that's the same with writers as well, John, that you get your foot in the door with, say, Johansson, and then you appear on Space 1999. You get into that circle a little bit.
Yes. I mean, I dropped out of screenwriting for about 3 or 4 years after The Protectors. And then when I went back, the first commission I got was from Jerry Anderson for Space 1999.
Why did you drop out of the screenwriting, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I dropped out of writing. I published my first novel, couldn't find a second novel.
Yeah.
I did a third script for The Protectors, which didn't work.
Right.
And I was offered a sort of partnership in a business near where I was living. And I needed to make a bit of money, which I did.
Yeah.
And then 2 or 3 years later, I went back.
Did you recycle any of your Protectors ideas for that third episode into other?
No, I can't even remember what it was now. I think it wasn't a very good story. Tony, what was his name? Tony Barham, was it? Tony
Barwick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Rang me up and said, "I'm afraid your script went the way of all flesh, John." I don't think it was very good.
No.
It's quite difficult, to think of a story that can work in this format.
Well, exactly. I think it was its ultimate undoing as a show. I think that the restraints of it. Of course, we've just seen Robert Brown as the commandant of the.
Oh yes.
Very well known to Bond fans, who was playing M in the later Roger Moore's and Timothy Dalton Bond films. Again, one of those faces that crops up in the Avengers and other
yes,
things.
Absolutely. Bob Baker, who produced The Saint and The Return of the Saint, and what else did he? The Defender. He did a load of shows. Claimed he'd hired every single actor in Britain at some stage.
Sure, he did.
This, I imagine, is in the studio.
Oh yeah, yeah. It looks again looks a very good set, isn't it? But again, one of those things you would you wouldn't shoot on location.
But you see, this is all quite sexy stuff for 1972.
Yeah.
You know, helicopters, helicopter shots. That must be Spain, I think.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I would say so. So you got the foreign locations. You got the gadgets. It's Of course, we've got another very well-known actor, Valdic Shibol, who plays the brother of Patrick Troughton's character.
Yes.
Again, well known for From Russia with Love. He played Constantine, one of the villains, and
yes,
Casino Royale, the David Niven.
Yes, he had a career as a villain for sort of 30 years, didn't he?
Yes, yeah, he did, and also the New Avengers as well. He played one of the guest villains.
Yeah,
too. Those connections again.
Of course you do. Nobody ever knew quite what the protectors lived on. They all seem to be immensely rich.
Yeah, I think obviously got the Countess, so we know, of course, that's probably through marriage and position. But yes, as to what Harry Rule does, and and I suppose it's left a bit ambiguous as part of this sort of mystery of it.
Yes, it was kind of like those were the days, when it was assumed, people could be rich without doing anything.
Nice idea, isn't it?
Yes. Where's your watch?
Yeah. And there's lots of, considering it's 24 minutes, there's lots of twists and turns.
Yeah, lots of twists and turns, yes.
It's not just a simple A to B, as you might imagine.
No. Ah, that's a movie magic spray. There isn't such a thing. But...
Yeah, I don't think that works in real life, does it? But,
no, that's the magic of the movies.
And it's a great detail that
this is classic, when it's all going well, you need to throw a curveball.
Yeah.
If she just walked out, it'd be boring.
Yeah.
So now the clock is ticking.
Yeah, there's a sort of Mission Impossible edge to it, isn't it? A little bit.
Yeah. Commercial break, I imagine.
Yeah, there's obviously. Do you have to write those in, or is it just something that the editors sort of think about in terms of you need a pause at 12 minutes, something to sort of fade to black, sell the merchandise, and I mean, do you as a writer, when you watch your episodes, or indeed any drama, do you find that the flow is a bit interrupted by having those commercial breaks? It's sort of
hated, absolutely hated. Yeah. But I mean, we used to construct our scripts round the commercial breaks.
Yeah.
The Act 1 teaser, the Act 1 cliffhanger, the Act 2 cliffhanger, and the Act 3 teaser for the next episode. It was all constructed that way. It was Aaron Spelling who invented the epilogue. I used to write a lot of epilogues. It got a fourth commercial break in. Made the whole thing more profitable. It was like a 2-minute thing.
Yeah. Well, the Avengers, when it went onto film, particularly the Diana Rigg, the Colour Diana Rigg and the Linda Thornton episodes, they purposely did a 1-minute sort of tag scene that didn't have much to do with the episode, came after just to get people to stay on for that extra minute.
Exactly. Yeah. I wonder if he did that or whether it was a stuntman.
I imagine it does look like a stuntman, actually. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they couldn't have paid him enough to do that. I don't think.
Isn't it wonderful when anybody shoots on screen, they always miss unless they're supposed to hit.
Yeah, you wonder how they get the job in the first place, don't you, as henchmen or guards.
Awful lot of champagne gets drunk in these shows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Always champagne.
I think if it was tea or coffee, it wouldn't be quite as interesting.
Yes.
I was just saying, John, is it quite nice to write action adventure stories with helicopters and chases, and is it nice to watch those, to write those kind of things?
Oh yes, lovely.
Yeah, and Rosalind's
well, it was kind of a thing then. I mean, you kind of had to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why at the beginning, instead of meeting at the airport, being driven to the villa, you have the test. You get a bit of action. You think, oh, what's all this going on? Why is he being attacked? Well, it's bullshit, really. But it makes it more interesting.
And it's that pressure again of getting people in the pre-credit sequence rather than flicking on.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, when it comes to the action in these things, such as the opening fight or the helicopter sequence, how much of that would you have just put he escapes by helicopter, or how much would you sort of write in the details of do you leave a lot of it to the director?
It's a very difficult question to answer. Some producers insisted that you write every beat. Other producers say, oh, don't bother, just say car chase, we'll work out. To which one would have to say, well, there are some moments in the car chase that are about character. Therefore, I've got to write those beats. And so most of the time, I'd write them. Because a car chase, can tell story, can tell character. How they handle the car, what their reactions are to this, that, and the other. Whack. I love these frogmen.
Yeah. And again, I think the fencing sabers is a nice touch.
Yes.
And it's how you make a fight scene interesting, isn't it? Even by 72, there'd been so many films, so many. You got to add those little flows, something to make it.
Well, that's another area where sometimes you write it. Other times you just put they fight. Edward wins.
Yeah.
But again, if you orchestrate the fight on the page, it helps everybody because they know kind of what they need to get on film. But B, again, you can tell a story.
Yeah. I know that
the bore about the sword fight or the fist fight is there's a kind of, I like this where they go to a bull ring.
Yes.
Complete bullshit. They could do it in an underground car park. But hey, we're in Spain, let's do a bull ring. no, the bore of these fights is that kind of traditionally, there's kind of no way around it. The hero has to almost lose before turning the tables and winning. You've seen it so many times, but it's difficult to come up with a variation.
Yeah. We were saying that this scene, you say, could be anywhere, but of course they decided to do it in a bullring.
Yes.
You probably would have written it as a generic location because I imagine locations are kind of.
I mean, I honestly can't remember, but yes.
I suppose it's a question of how early on your script hits the desk of J. Anderson, and then when they know where locations are, the availability of the cast. So obviously,
Exactly, yeah.
From what you have in your mind, as terms of the setting and the look of the piece, it's probably quite different when you actually,
Yes. I mean, you try and put in a little bit of description of rooms, to sort of set the scene, to give the designers something to go on. You see, they look quite alike, those two, don't they?
You could buy that. Yes, they're playing.
You could buy that they were brothers. Yes.
Yes, you could. Yeah. And I think for Patrick Troughton, who was so well known for playing the Doctor and this ultimate hero, he really did villains very well.
Yes, he does.
And it gets very dark, doesn't it?
Yes.
In particular. And of course, all about keeping the.
This is a clever little thing. There was a hint about this earlier. In the prison, he'd been to the dentist. Do you remember?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yes. Just the last second, saving the day.
Congratulations. Enter the police.
They're always on time to arrest, but they're never on time to actually really do much constructively, are they? Just it's like Batman. Batman would beat up the villains, solve it all, and then the police would say, "Thank you very much, Batman," and take them off to prison.
Exactly. Yes, we don't worry about trials or.
No.
It's all wrapped up.
And I like the joke about the fact they were so late because with reading the map, that was a nice little.
Yes, you always have to have these little shticks.
Again, this is again somebody pointed this out that there's an
Jill
intention.
Balkan, good God, of course it was. Do you want some trivia about Jill Balkan?
Oh yes, please. Yes.
She was married to Cecil Day-Lewis, poet laureate, who I knew very well.
Yeah.
And mother of Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, right, yes.
She was the daughter of Sir Michael Balkan, who was a major film producer of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I didn't recognize her. I think she's died.
Yes, she did. I think it's.
And because I worked, my first novel was published by Hogarth Press, which was owned by Chatto & Windus. And Cecil Day-Lewis was an editor there, as I became. And I did a week on, a week off. He did a week on, a week off. And I used his office. But frequently, he'd come in, and so we share an office. He always insisted that we shared the office. So I got to know him quite well. And got to know Jill. And then he died. And I remember Daniel, as a little boy running around. They lived in Greenwich.
Right.
So there's a sort of lineage there.
I was just looking Jill up, and she died in 2009, aged 84.
Yeah. She was a lovely woman. The last time I saw her was at some party. And she was trying to sort of revive Cecil's position as a poet. He kind of, nobody read him anymore, nobody was interested anymore, which distressed her. Because he was an excellent poet, but everybody remembers Auden, and to some extent Spender. And Cecil's been rather forgotten. But as poet laureate, he did a fantastic job. But we're not here to talk about poets laureate, are we? I've got to go change the disc now.
Yes, we'll change the disc, yes.
Yes. So give him about half an hour.
Yes, be a quick intermission, everybody.
Right.
Okay.
To wait for all the rubbish at the beginning to scroll through.
Yes.
Jerry Anderson loved this episode. Because it was about something.
Yes, it does have a very good, strong story, doesn't it?
Yes. And at that time, 1972, I mean, it was the absolute height of the Cold War. And it was all tremendously sort of relevant and exciting. There we go. Balance of Terror. There we go.
Yeah. So again, we'll pause on the opening shot.
Come on, you silly thing, work.
So the opening shot of the chessboard. We'll pause on that one.
Paused.
Okay. So we'll just give people a couple of moments if they haven't quite got it ready. So looking back at just finishing off on Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a good episode? Did you quite like seeing it again?
Yes, I very much enjoyed it. I mean, it's not bad, is it?
No, I think it's a very, very good one. Yeah.
But the one that's coming up is sort of is really much more interesting.
Oh yeah, yes. I think
very much of its time. And as I say, Jerry was very keen on it.
Yeah.
Because he was very deep, Jerry. He was a sort of deep thinker. He really was.
So if everybody's ready, we'll count down from 5, then press play again. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and play.
There we go.
Yeah. So again, this is a nice bit of fun, isn't it, between the two characters?
Yes.
I think the romance that you kind of hinted to in the end of Brotherhood is perhaps a bit dialed back as the series goes on, but there's still
yes.
It's
like Purdy and Steed, isn't it?
Yes.
It's all between the lines.
Yes, bubbling in the simmering in the back.
Yes. I'd completely forgotten about the sort of is she Japanese servant? Chinese?
I think she's supposed to be Japanese, yes. And I think it's quite relevant, of course, to the episode. I think was it a conscious to start with them speaking in a bit of Japanese and sort of to get the idea of one of the themes in the episode through?
Yes, I think it was. I mean, it's all so long ago. It's hard to see. This is good. What comes next is excellent, I think.
Yeah.
Enter the sinister.
Yeah, and again,
you're right. So good, Nigel Stock, isn't he?
Yeah. From the get-go, you're drawn into it, aren't you? And this was the penultimate appearance of Nigel Green, because he this episode was broadcast after he died.
Really?
He died of a sleeping pill overdose, which they think was accidental, but I think there's some debate as to whether it might have been or not. But
see, that is instead of a boring, "Hi, Mr. Rule, you know, we need your help, blah, 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 blah." You know, you make it interesting with guns, and then, oh, that's why they're throwing their guns down.
Yes. And again, Nigel Green's one of those faces that people recognise from the Persuaders, and
yes,
the Ipecac File, of course, a big role in that. These titles are very interesting. We didn't mention them before, but it actually includes, there's a helicopter that goes over a truck, which is coming up in a second. That is taken from Rush with Love, the James Bond film.
Oh, really?
And I have no idea why they, I suppose, just wanted some exciting footage to sell the series, but that's a nice little Easter egg for Bond fans that is in there.
This is a clever little shtick. You think you're in Moscow, in fact, you're just watching a slideshow.
Yes.
Dear old Don Chaffee.
Did you know the director that well? Did you meet the director?
But I sort of, you know, yeah, we had little chats from time to time.
So would he have any input on your script, or would it be kind of you'd talk about other things? You know, wasn't?
No, I mean, that would have been Tony Barwick and me, and occasionally Jerry.
Yeah.
In those days, the director was handed the script and basically said, "Go shoot this."
Yeah.
Don't forget, in 1972, I mean, this was.
Oh,
I mean, the KGB was, you know, the devil incarnate.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, the government was issuing ludicrous but quite scary advice about what to do in a nuclear war. When the wind blows. Do you remember all that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Evan Briggs. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting into germ warfare, and I suppose that's kind of was very, very cutting edge.
Again, that was very, very. It was a hot topic at the time. Because then, as now, of course, it's the very worst.
How much would Tony Barwick have brought to your script? Would it be more sort of how much was it a collaborative point in a way?
I didn't really see much of Tony. I mean, in those days, frankly, you were expected to deliver a ready-to-shoot script.
So what would you say a script editor does for those that perhaps are wondering what they might do?
On that show, a few phone. I think I had 1 or 2 meetings with Tony. So week here and there.
Yeah.
A few phone conversations, but as I say, it was all, you know, it was kind of a bit of a, no, I wouldn't say conveyor belt, but it was kind of a bit like that. I don't know how long it took to shoot each episode, but not very long.
And you're doing 26 a year as well. You know, it's
yeah,
production.
So nobody had time to, you know, scratch their heads and be brilliant and come up with amazing ideas and go deep into character. You know, you kind of wrote it, they shot it, the actors acted it, the editors edited it, boom, out it went.
Yeah.
On time and on budget.
Yeah. And again, I think a nice twist that they're in the Russian embassy, and again, where are they? You know, at the beginning of the story, and thinking it might take
embassy of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. It should have been.
I mean, when it came to the actual theme of the episode, so it's German warfare, it's an escaped prisoner. Would Jerry Anderson or Tony say we want a story about this, or would you say I've got a story idea about this?
I got the idea. Which is a simple idea, but it's quite a interesting one. You know, that if Hiroshima hadn't happened, this argument was raging at the time.
Yes.
It was already brewed up a great, I mean, after Hiroshima, with, oh, thank God that's over. It had to be done. It had to be done. Otherwise, the war against Japan would have gone on and on and on. Excuse me. But then in the 60s, this whole debate, as we got to know more and more about the effects of radiation sickness, as films were made, books were written about Nagasaki and Hiroshima, there was a whole political and philosophical movement saying it should never have been, you know, it's too horrible. But the counter argument was, no, it stopped it ever happening again. Until you can see a thing with your own eyes. I think there's a line in the script that says this. Until you can see a thing with your own eyes, you know, you can't appreciate its full horror. And that's this mad scientist's idea.
We have an audience member that's Japanese, and who's very interested in this element of the episode. A gentleman called Kenji, and he was sort of asking about what we already touched on, was the use of the Japanese language in the beginning as sort of a precursor, you know, to the theme, but also he was wondering, I think it's a very interesting question, what people in Britain thought back in the time of this episode about, is it very much that, you know,
it's very interesting. By the 1970s, Japan had become a sort of hero nation. Their economic, massive economic boom, I mean, they were financed by America initially, but the Japanese genius for manufacturing and business and all the rest of it was hugely admired, especially in Europe, and slightly feared, because, you know, there was sort of, everyone was worried, and they were right to be worried, that a whole raft of manufacturing would go to Japan, and Europe would suffer a result, and Europe did suffer as a result. I mean, car manufacturing in Japan, I mean, swept the world. So there was huge admiration for Japan, tinged with a bit of, oh, they produce all these cheap copies. But I think initially they did in the 50s, they were cheap copies. But by the 60s, certainly the 70s, for instance, motorbikes, you know, the Kawasaki's and so on, were absolutely knocking spots off Harley Davidson and all the rest of it. And this debate about Hiroshima was very, very active. And this is exactly what this episode is all about.
So you brought this idea of the Hiroshima connection, the parallel, was that your idea?
Yes. The date is very important.
Well, yes, the actual date it happened, and I did do a bit of research on it, and yes, obviously, but the time is interesting. So I don't know where the time of the potential releasing of the German warfare is partly to make it easy as a plot device, because the time of it actually, the bomb actually going off, what I'm pointing out as a mistake here.
But I'm afraid that was a subtlety that escaped me at the time.
Because it was apparently 8:15 in the morning when Japanese time that the bomb went off. And of course, in this one, it's a countdown to 9 o'clock in the morning UK time, which
yes,
yeah.
Well, depending on, maybe Nagasaki was 9 o'clock. Hiroshima was 8:15.
I'd have to double check that.
Yes.
It would have been
I probably did look it up at the time. I mean, now you could Google it in 5 seconds.
Well, yeah, I had a lot easier job to find it than you'd have done.
Yeah.
If I work out my time conversion correctly, it would have been 11:15 p.m. UK time. So of course you're talking about.
But don't tell anybody that,
no,
for God's sake.
No one's going to see this.
No.
But I suppose it would have been a night shoot, perhaps, and therefore, the budget of the episode would have gone up. It could be little things like that sometimes.
When I watched this, I did spot a couple of slightly iffy moments. Like, because in fact, Russians who came to London, and they did, trade delegations, all that sort of thing, were hugely surveilled by the KGB. So where this guy finds himself a hotel and a hire car and all the rest of it, I'm not quite sure. But let's not worry our pretty little heads about that. That clearly isn't a hotel, it's a block of flats. Never mind.
I thought what was interesting, how they knew it was 8:15 when the bomb went off, is they found watches that had the time on it that, of course, had stopped at that particular time. So that was
yes,
why how they knew, of course. But and of course we have Lawrence Naismith as the chief villain, again, a face well known by TV and film fans.
Yes.
It's quite interesting that we have two guest stars, Lawrence Naismith, Nigel Green, very well known for playing English gentlemen, playing Russians.
Yes.
Quite
convincingly. I mean, they're not cod accents; they're really quite good accents.
Yeah. I suppose a little bit of debate, isn't it? Where nowadays, of course, you probably would have got actual Russian actors playing. So
yes.
It'd be perhaps all why you cast English people as Russians.
Yes.
And
see, this is good. Exactly. Yeah.
The whole
see, he's invulnerable, this guy. As long as he's holding the deadly tube, there's nothing they can do.
And it is a terrifying idea, isn't it? You just drop and that's it. It's just
Bye-bye London.
Yeah, much more scary than a nuclear bomb, where you've got to actually arm it and do other things. And
I think the reason why biological weapons have never been used and never will be is because you can't control them. I mean, look at COVID. Let's say COVID was manufactured in China and released deliberately to screw over the West. It's actually screwed China. It's in the most terrible situation thanks to COVID.
There was a lot of theory, isn't there, that it initially and people of course probably still believe it, that it was sort of, and it was a biological weapon that got out accidentally, or lots of theories along those lines.
We'll never know.
No.
The Chinese probably do know, but they're never going to say.
No.
Because either of the two theories, the leak from the Wuhan laboratory or the wet market in Wuhan, neither is other than terribly embarrassing for China. So
absolutely, yes.
I mean, the wet market is less embarrassing, but neither is good news.
Yeah. Obviously, of course, chemical weapons have been used, of course, in various places in the world, but yes, biological weapons. Maybe some.
Here we go, August the 6th.
Yeah.
9 a.m.
A very nice, convenient big clock there on Harry has.
Yes.
I don't know if
they were more innocent days.
Yeah. But it'd be interesting to know, watching the other episodes, whether that reappears or whether it's just things brought in for particular plot points. But of course,
See, this is well played. This is a good actor.
Oh yes, he's fabulous, isn't he?
You know, you can see in his face. You don't need any words. You can see in his face.
Yeah.
We have no idea who he's talking to. I want them all. Who's going to check all the taxis in London?
Yeah, you get the sense there's this huge network of people.
Yes.
The mystery of them. And the Japanese actress, she appeared in Space 1999, The New Avengers. She was also one of the Bath girls in You Only Live Twice with Sean Connery, and also coincidentally the ex-wife of Ray Austin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How interesting.
Yes.
It's all a tight knit.
It is the 6 degrees separation.
Circle.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
The episode title, Balance of Terror, again, would that have been your title?
Yeah, it was my title, yeah.
Nice title. Yeah.
I think somewhere we wouldn't look. Exactly. Her contribution, somewhere we've already looked.
Yes.
Off he goes.
And again, that's a nice idea, isn't it? That you go back to somewhere they've already searched.
Exactly. The one place you don't think he's going to be there.
Yeah.
I imagine this is the Welsh Harp in North London, where this is filmed.
I always, one reason why I love watching these shows is that how little traffic you see on the roads.
I know.
The closest we got, of course, was during COVID.
You park anywhere, no parking meters, no yellow lines.
Yeah. You've got some process work in the cars here, so I suppose it's only really these little things that tend to sort of date it a little bit, isn't it? The sort of the back projection, the cars, and things of that nature.
Yes. I don't think this is back projection, is it? Or is it? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's at least some. Yeah, I think the majority of it is. I think.
Yes, I think perhaps that is a bit.
Yeah. And again, we have the actors stunt doubles as opposed to them being on location, because obviously for time and cost reasons.
Why Tony Anholt is in a Citroen? I think it is. Is it a Citroen 3CV? I don't know. It was very chic at the time.
He's obviously not doing as well as Harry and the Contessa, most likely, but possibly, because I don't know if we know so much about Tony's background as we do Harry's and the Contessa. I'm not sure, but
no, he's sort of based in Paris, isn't he? In some mysterious way.
That's the more mysterious of the three, yeah.
See, our Russian scientists have got hold of a rather snazzy rover. Don't ask me where that came from. You see GLC?
Yes.
Hamden Reservoir, the Greater London Council, abolished by Margaret Thatcher.
Right.
Now, I think what's coming up is wondrous movie bullshit. I'll explain it as it happens.
Okay.
So they spot him. They spot him. And then I'll circle. Okay. I'll circle. Well, so this is you intercut between the three characters. And you see Harry Rule jumping on the thing. absolute bullshit. It's,
in terms
of the random stuff.
Yeah, the location not perhaps matching reality.
Well, no, it's meaningless, except you don't really notice.
I think we have a very good double for Robert Vaughan in this. It's clearly not him, but it's in the long shots, but it's pretty close. I think much better than we saw, say, in the previous episode on the helicopter. Much more his body type.
See, where is that?
Yeah, it looks like it might be a different. Is it a different location, perhaps, or is it the same one? Looks the same one. Interesting that again they're speaking Russian and it's not subtitled. Again,
right.
Weird, kind of left out a little bit.
Don't ask me why they keep switching between Russian and English. I couldn't tell you.
Again, a good level of suspense, isn't there, on this?
Yep. I have a vague memory that in the script it fell into the water and Rule catches it just in time. But I think they probably couldn't do that. And those sort of things do get changed.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all too difficult. Screw the writer, let's just do this way, it's easier.
Yeah, I suppose it's more difficult to film something, but although it works, I think it works quite well, and that he disappears between the floor and
the slats of the thing. Yes,
it's gone, so it works.
Yes,
both ways.
But now you'd have a slow motion shot of it descending into the water and the top flying off.
Yeah.
And just in the nick of time, the hand will come in and grab it and then lift it up, being careful not to tip anywhere. That was good.
I think I really do like the end scene between Nigel Green and Robert Vaughan in the added level of just a bit like Brotherhood. Another twist to it. Is he going to turn out to be a villain? And he doesn't. And I think that's rather a nice little. I think their relationship in particular is quite sweet as well.
Very good.
Yeah.
But all that was quite sort of say controversial, but because I can't emphasize the top stuff at that time was John le Carre and Len Deighton and all these spy novels were about the deadly enmity between Russia, Soviet Union, and the West. So the notion of combining to save London, was Jerry liked that because he wanted to show that it could be possible. When push came to serious bloody shove, the two nations would join forces.
Yeah. So, if you look at Jerry Anson's shows, it does. There is an optimism, isn't there? In his
there
work.
Is, yes.
Yeah. We did have a couple of comments. Rosalind said that the car that Harry was driving at the end of the episode at the reservoir apparently it belonged to Reg Hill.
You see, if you could save a few quid.
Well, yeah.
You saved a few quid.
Yeah. Would you have encountered Reg Hill at all?
I knew Reg later. I don't think I ever met him on the Protectors, but then he was involved in the New Avengers.
I don't know if he was the New Avengers.
Was it the New Avengers?
I've got him down as being involved with a lot of Jerry Anderson productions: Stingray, Thunderbirds, UFO.
Yes, was he? Oh, I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm thinking of
Ron Fry or
my mind is names. I'm sure I did meet Rich Hill on something else, but I can't remember what now.
Because of a long collaborator with Jerry Anderson, so they obviously worked together very, very well. And had
yes, I mean, Rich was very much the sort of nuts and bolts money man.
Yeah.
Jerry was the sort of creative.
Would you have encountered Sherwood Price, the executive in charge of production?
No.
Okay.
I remember the name. I think, as we discussed in our last encounter, in those days, on these kinds of shows, the writer was expected to, as I said before, produce an oven-ready script. Got paid, and that was it, really. You didn't really, so I didn't. I don't think many writers really got that involved, unless they had come up with the original concept, or were involved as producers, or. But I was just a typewriter for hire.
One thing that Ben has just made a comment saying that were you aware that there's an episode of Captain Scarlet that has a similar theme of preventing poisoning from being dropped in the water supply? So
no,
certain stories.
Would that have been post or pre my show?
Captain Scarlet, I think, would have been 60s, I think. Sort of. So I think it's the same sort of.
Oh, I can't accuse them of stealing my idea then, no?
Probably not.
I certainly didn't steal that idea. I mean, it's not the world's most original idea, but at the time, it sort of touched a nerve.
Yeah. I think there's certainly been other stories since. I think there was an episode of Batman as well, when the not so nasty as Gem Warfare, but I think the Joker puts this jelly substance in the reservoir in Gotham, so all the taps come out with jelly, strawberry jelly, something like that. So I think it's one of those ideas that frightens people, isn't it? You poisoning people's
Well, it's I mean, and it all came true with COVID.
Yeah,
I mean, the idea of my father, I remember, who was an eye surgeon, but a fully qualified doctor, wouldn't allow us to have antibiotics when we were children, unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah,
because he predicted that the overprescription of antibiotics, the bugs would overtake the antibiotics one day, and he also predicted a plague.
Yeah.
He said one day there's going to be a virus or a bacterium that will spread throughout the world and cause the most appalling trouble.
I think that's the problem with the way the population moves these days. You're not isolated, are you? Even on an island like
no, exactly.
It's global, and what if one place gets it? It's around in a matter of days. And
I had to go and see my ailing sister the other side of London during the tube strike.
Yeah.
So I had to take buses, which of course were massively overcrowded. And you could virtually see the COVID viruses floating in the air around you.
Yeah.
Nobody was wearing a mask.
No.
So I was telling you earlier that I delivered the script for Brotherhood to Elstree and waited. And Jerry's secretary rang me and said, Mr. Anderson will be ringing you at 4:00 this afternoon. So at 4:00 that afternoon, the phone rang, and it was Jerry. And I said, oh, hello, Mr. Anderson. Hello. And there was a long silence. Jerry was like this, long silence. So, hello? Yes. I said, you got the script? Yes. I'm dying, as the silence went on. In the end, I said, any good? Another huge silence. And then he said something very Jerry-esque and very interesting. He said, there are very few writers whose work I see who I think have any future as screenwriters in this country. But you're one of them.
Lovely, yeah.
Yeah. But he was quite alarming. I mean, these sort of terrible silences, and he had a very, very dry sense of humor. He's a very, very interesting and extremely brilliant man, Jerry.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. The range of his ideas and concepts, I think, is almost unmatched, really. We did have a couple of other questions.
John, what do you think of TV drama scripts today? Well, some of them are better than anything I've ever written or ever could write. Others, I rather agree with the comment. Sort of dark for the sake of it, over convoluted, lose their way. But there are some things, I mean, like The Wire, which I think it's an American show, but I mean, The Wire is, I mean, Breaking Bad. I mean, these are kind of operatic scripts of huge brilliance. And interestingly, both almost never got made. Nobody wanted to put money into them.
Yeah.
Nobody thought they had a hope in hell. And by hook or by crook, they got made and changed everything. But I won't name any names or shows, but yeah, I mean, some things like those are absolutely brilliant, way above my pay grade. But other things I watch, I think,
yeah.
I watched a film the other day. I'm a member of BAFTA, so I have to watch 1,000 fucking films every. Sorry about my language. Every year, and they now have them all online. You can see them all online, which I was suggesting they did years ago. They've actually now got round to it. And some of the films on there, there's one in particular where even in the sort of naive 60s and 70s, if you produce such clunky, on the nose voiceover and dialogue about love being more powerful than anything in the world, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I would have been ashamed to have written that. But then, you know, it's a collaborative art. Anything can screw up a TV show or a film. One bad performance, limp direction, missing scenes. I wrote a movie for Lou once years ago, all about a miracle. And I had a scene which would have made everybody in the audience who didn't believe in miracles, which would have, I imagine would have been about 90%, go, yeah, okay, yeah. They never shot it.
Oh.
So the whole movie came over as sort of immensely sentimental, like a bit of sort of plastic tat in Lourdes. So one missing scene can ruin anything can ruin it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But those two episodes we've just watched, there wasn't a duff performance.
No.
Okay, the fights these days, the fights would be much more believable and exciting. The pace would have been a bit swifter, but solid performances, decent dialogue without being too clever. That's another fault, I think, of a lot of shows these days. The endless quips and jests and clever little bits of dialogue between people. You cease to believe they're real.
Yeah, there's very few people that are that quick and
yeah, because nobody's that quick. Actors today mumble too much. You're absolutely right. Rosalind Connors, they do.
Yeah.
There are two besetting sins: the mumbling actor and what I always call murky vision, where the lighting is so horrible.
Yeah.
You can't see anything that's going on. And often the two are combined, especially in period pieces.
Yeah.
They insist, oh, we want authentic candlelight, you know. But you can't see a bloody thing. And you can't hear what anybody's saying.
No.
And this is very tempting little, you just go something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of TV and film is, you say, they're trying to go for an authentic quality. They're assuming that people are watching on very, very high end, you know, TVs with the curtain, not in the daytime when there's any glare, or, you know, and of course a lot of people are doing it on their mobile phones or computers. And they're not really designed. It's more a cinematic approach to TV, I think you've got these days.
Yes, which can work magnificently, but TV for me is an intimate genre, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point. I mean, my Larry Forrester was a very distinguished TV and film writer. Always thought in terms of Technicolor, and, you know, would start, you know, Washington leads the independent army over the hill, and 6,000 men doing it. For a TV show, well, all you'd see were a few sort of, it's a complete waste of everybody's money.
Yeah.
What you want to see is the dirt on the faces and the tears and the stumble and the, you know, the emotions.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think what Rosalind was saying also, part of a comment, was that there is a bit of hankering, I think, for more sort of, you know, more simple, more straightforward, more fun stories, like you may have with the Protectors, the Persuaders, the Saint, rather than these things that can be quite sort of heavy. And perhaps we're living at a time where we want a bit more action adventure, less melodrama.
Yes. I wonder if action adventure, I mean, there is action adventure, of course, on the big screen, you know, the Indiana Jones franchises, but for me, it's all gone. I mean, I can barely watch a Marvel film now. I mean, they're all the same. They're just out competing each other for the most extraordinary special effects they can produce.
Yeah.
And it's a big yawn. You know, gee whiz, you know, they blew up Mars. Okay.
It is becoming a bit of a spectacle, isn't it? And
yeah, and sort of meaningless.
You know,
I mean, the Spider-Man franchise is more amusing because it's very much more about character.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
Especially the later ones. There was one very good one, which was really about what it is to be a Spider-Man or another sort of action hero. When you're in love with the girl next door and can't tell her who you really are, and that was really a very moving show. It had lots of, you know, cool stuff, but it was absorbing because it was about, you know, it was about a person.
Yeah. I had another comment from Rosalind I thought was worth mentioning. It was going back to the drinking the champagne, which of course is
it always had to be champagne.
And I think she mentioned that, and Jason King, you know, that would be not out of place in a Jason King story. Or the Persuaders, again, they had lots of champagne on, and they real champagne on the actual set. And if you look at when they first started the series to when Roger and Tony finished, they put on a lot of weight, and a lot of it is the champagne didn't help with that. Because usually it's lemonade or something like that, isn't it? But
Yes.
Alcohol's actually on a.
I remember Bob Baker telling me at a very early stage when I was doing The Return of the Saint, that the Saint never has a room, always a suite, always a suite, with champagne there. But people loved all that in those days. They wanted a bit of glamour. No, they wanted snazzy cars and beautiful clothes and champagne.
Yeah, and the particularly, of course, with everything's very colourful in terms of the sets, and I think probably some people were still watching black and white TVs in those days.
Oh yes. I had a black and white TV until about the late 70s. Little black and white TV,
Yeah. So I think that's part of the glamour that audiences, I think, were wanting at the
yes, they did. They wanted that sort of glamour.
I had another comment from Roslyn, just sort of complimenting you on your Space 99 episode, Seed of Destruction.
Yes,
a well-trodden idea about an evil double. Very good story, very good, strong cast, strong tension. So
yeah, it was a good one. That.
Yeah. What else have we got that's come through?
Only tell me the nice ones. I don't want any horrid ones.
Oh, I haven't got any.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah, we're all friends here, I think. But Ben was just talking about the idea of the brother murder swap, and again, that's do these ideas come to you quite easily in terms of how you're going to, what's the villain's motivation, the twist, and do you have one of those minds that just sort of thinks how somebody can...
Well, yes. I mean, that was a really very simple story.
Yeah.
I'm a criminal. Time's running out. I need to vanish. I have this brother in jail.
Yeah.
Well, I've put him in jail.
Yeah.
To keep him on ice when I want to use him. And you could tell that in 8 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've got to, mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
And put obstacles in the way all the time.
Because it's not as obvious as, say, if they were identical twins, or
There's a wonderful line in Sherlock, the new Sherlock Holmes thing. Well, not that new now. And Sherlock says several times, it's never twins. It's never twins. And he's right.
Yeah.
If you're relying on twins, you're doomed. Nobody believes it.
Or plastic surgery or something that makes something look like.
Yes, that's also
those kind of sort of corny sort of areas. But Ben also asked, do you have any advice for people that want to write, maybe for television, or how you would sort of...
Yes, dear Ben, do anything else but. Any advice? I mean, these days, it's difficult to get it. I mean, when I started, there was a chicken and egg thing. You couldn't be hired to write for British television unless you were a member of the Writers' Guild of Great Britain. But you couldn't become a member of the Writers' Guild of Great Britain until you had a screen credit. So how do you get around that one? So the way Jerry got around it, when he bought my script, he said to the Guild, he's got a credit, it's just we haven't made the show yet, but he will have a credit. Let him in, and they did. So then he could turn to, the Guild and say, I mean, you could, I think the BBC hired writers who weren't members of the Guild, but for ITV, for independent television, there was a sort of union shop. I don't think there is now, but there was then. Why am I telling you all this? Any advice? Well, is the advice about how to write and what to write, in which case I have no idea. Or is the advice about how do you get a gig writing?
Well, maybe that is perhaps a good one to start with.
There, quite honestly, I'm kind of out of the swim now. I mean, I did tons of stuff in America and Germany and Australia and France, all over the shop. But I hope the chap who's asked the question is younger than me. Because if you're old, it's quite difficult, unless you're world famous.
Well, I
think the problem is this, that in Hollywood, towards the end of my glorious career in Hollywood, I noticed more and more that the executives I was dealing with were 20 or 30 years younger than me. And were very uncomfortable. Because A, they felt as if they were dealing with their grandfather. And B, because I had such a huge track record, list of credits, they were always slightly intimidated. I'd done so much in so many different areas. Much easier for them to deal with people of their own age and their own generation. And I understand that. I was a young Turk once. So, any advice? Well, I suppose the bottom line is, do you want to write? Or do you want to make a living writing? If you just want to write. And then see how it all pans out and see if you can sell what you've written, etc. If you want to earn a living, that's trickier. It's rare.
Yeah.
Very few people actually earn a living. There was a thing we founded years ago. It was called the Carl Foreman Award. It was a BAFTA award founded by Carl's widow. And it was £10,000 and a year's tuition at the screenwriting school at Long Beach. And it was for screenwriters only, initially. I'm only telling you this because I sat on the committee for many years, and we limited submissions to film schools, universities. Otherwise, we would have had forklift truckloads of mouldering dog-eared scripts from everybody in the world. But by limiting it to those things, at least it cut it down. So we used to get 40 or 50 scripts in every year. And they could be divided into 3 categories, basically. Category 1 was the guy who cracked it. I know how to write a hit movie. So it was the car chase, a love affair, probably an alien, a fire, volcanic explosion, and they were hopeless. The second category is what I would call the, dare I say it, the masturbatory screenplay. All about my own soul, my own thing, my own struggles, my own unreadable. The third category, which always won, was the once upon a time category, where you knew from page 1 that the writer was telling you a story. And usually the winner was a story about a world unfamiliar. It took you into a different kind of world. I mean, one year we had a guy who was still a great friend of mine, who wrote a short film about a night bus. And it worked a treat. cheap to do, very interesting. You know, like 3 in the morning, and you're on a night bus. You've got 4 or 5 other characters on the bus. You know something's going to happen, and it does. And you can explore some character and tell a story. So my advice to, who was it who asked?
Ben.
Ben, tell the story you want to tell.
Yeah, I think that's very, very good advice. Just write, see what happens, and you know, go from there.
The key is the story you want to tell. Do you think is interesting and significant, and would interest people?
Yeah.
And tell it any way you like. But tell it. There you need a bit of technique. In screenwriting, you do need technique. Although, do you want me to be highly controversial?
Please do, yes.
Get you kicked off YouTube. Avoid at all costs seminars on screenwriting. They're inevitably conducted by people who haven't written a screenplay that's been produced for 30 years. They'll teach you a formula that you've got to follow. The inciting incident, all this jargon, you know, the first act, climax, the thing, blah, 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 blah. All of which is perfectly sound, but tends to result in a formulaic screenplay. Where the audience are way ahead of you most of the time. Oh yeah, it's one of those things where yes, no, he's going to die now because so very few surprises. And the awful truth is, in my opinion, screenwriting is a knack. You either got it or you ain't, and it's inexplicable. Some people can play the piano, I can't. Really very badly. They have this knack, they can play a piano. Other people have other knacks. I was born, thank God, with a knack for writing screenplays. It's really sort of instinctive.
Yeah, I think you're right. You can learn certain techniques and certain, you know, things.
Yes.
You've got to.
Here's a bit of very solid advice, entirely free to the world. If you're wrestling with your screenplay and you can't get the dialogue right, and it just isn't happening, and this should happen to you several times while writing a screenplay that's worth anything, it's always the structure that's at fault. Always the structure. So you stop, you go back, and you look at the structure of how it's unfolding, which bits come where. And it almost inevitably, of course, that should come earlier or later or not at all. And once you've adjusted the structure, you'll find you can write the scene. It flows naturally.
Just wrapping up on the Protectors, do you think one of the reasons why maybe your first script didn't get made was that it was such a hard thing to do? That's a 24-minute story. That's what I think. Do you think it was just very, very difficult to do them in the first place?
I honestly can't remember anything about it. I think I've sought to forget. I suspect it was a duff concept.
Because you have a very, very...
And therefore it was difficult to write. Therefore it was badly written. Therefore they said, you know, this is, you know, because in those days nobody had time to, you know, tinker and fiddle around. If the thing didn't work,
off to the next one, sort of thing.
When we do the Return of the Saint, are we doing the Return of the Saint? We are, aren't we?
Yes.
I'll tell you a very interesting story about an episode of that, which every screenwriter should hear.
I'll look forward to that.
Yes.
Ben also asked if you had any further memories of Tom Barwick, the script editor.
Tony Barwick. Yes. Later, he was very, very nice, Tony. Very, very professional. Highly experienced and competent. Knew what worked, didn't work. And I got back. Was he on Space 1999? No, it was Fred. It was an American. It was but later, it was when Jerry had his dip. I mean, Jerry's career crashed for 5 years, maybe more.
Yeah.
And there was a thing that he and Tony cooked up. They wanted to get involved in, and I had a couple of meetings with Tony. And I couldn't make it work, nor could Tony. It did. And then the next time I met Jerry, who'd gone from a sort of glamorous American style house in the Thames Valley with a Rolls Royce and a swimming pool and a tennis court and everything you could think of, a cottage at the grounds where he worked and all that, to a sort of somewhat miserable flat somewhere up near Heathrow. And I had an idea, Robin Hood in the 20th century. It'd have to be the 21st century now, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And Jerry got terribly excited. And this is interesting. So I went out to see him. And the idea was that the Sheriff of Nottingham finally captures Robin Hood. Robin Hood, this wasn't a particularly serious show. This was one of these amusing runner jumpers, sort of Avengers style.
Yeah.
So Robin Hood has escaped his clutches so often, he digs a 200-foot pit, surrounds it with archers who are there day and night. So how's Robin Hood going to climb out of a pit, A? And B, if he does, he's going to be shot with 100 arrows immediately. Cut to the 20th century, and Professor Brownstein has invented a time machine, which doesn't work terribly well. It's very erratic. It keeps. And Brownstein and I think his glamorous daughter find themselves on this errant time machine at the bottom of the pit where Robin Hood has been imprisoned. And they set off again with Robin aboard, and Robin Hood is now in the 20th century with all his archery skills and anyway, Jerry thought this was a highly amusing, fruitful idea.
Yeah.
And over several sessions, we tried to work out what stories might be. And we got more and more despondent as we realized that actually the premise was tremendous, but where did it lead?
Yeah, it's probably a film or TV movie rather than
where, what would he do each episode? How would, because getting adjusted to the 20th century, it gives you 10 minutes of amusing screen time, after which, boring, done all that. The amazement of the light switch, fine. You can play those shticks 3 or 4 times and then you get on with it, right? And yes, he gathers some merry men, but who? He robs the rich to pay the poor, but suddenly, there's a Labour government, and in the end, we abandoned it.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of process you have to go through.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be tested. The breaking point.
Yeah, yeah.
If it breaks, it's broken.
Rosin did point out that Tony did do an episode of Space 1999. It was the AB Chrysalis that he did.
Ah, okay.
Those, yeah. Do you have a favorite? Just looking at the two episodes, I assume that the second one, Balance of Terror, is your favorite of the two episodes, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's about something.
Yeah, it has a sort of a deeper.
Yeah.
Well, it has more of stories on a world stage, isn't it, rather than saying.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one is fun. And obviously, if it had been an hour show, one could have gone into the relationship between the two brothers, which would have been very interesting.
I think I'm amazed.
But in 24 minutes, you ain't got time.
But I think everything you need to know is there, and there is.
Yes, but
development as much as you
sort
can.
of skittered over, yeah.
Yeah, but it must feel like your hands tied behind your back a little bit, and you think, "Oh, I want to do this."
Yeah.
Because they did make 1 2-parter of the Protectors in its second series, which completely ruined the concept, because the concept was the individual. So even they kind of acknowledged that it was a bit limited. And
yes, I did a Return of the Saint. And it starred, I can't remember who it was now. A very good actor. And it was one of those deals. I think it was the 90s, I think. And there was a guy called Don Taffner, who was an American who based in London, who put together these international co-productions. And they were 2-hour episodes. And the problem is, the Saint is a strictly 1-hour character.
Yeah.
He's not interesting enough to do 2 hours.
Yeah.
And the show was not a success. I think I did 2 or 3 episodes. And I was hired to script edit the follow-up series, if the follow-up series happened, and signed a contract, that thick, American contract, because I was on a pay-or-play deal. Very sweet. So you get paid, even if it never happens, you get paid anyway. Right? But of course, I never got paid. It didn't happen. They were never going to pay me.
No, a shame.
And there was no point in suing Don Taffner, because he was worth about 300 million quid, and I was worth about France. Them's the breaks, Ben.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite scene from Brotherhood upon watching it? Was there a couple of moments that particularly sort of jumped out at you?
Well, I quite like the opening.
Opening's very, very strong.
Yes, when you do come in and suddenly you're assailed by heavies. Which is a mild, what's going to happen next moment. I like the where's your watch moment.
Yeah, I think one of the audience pointed that out as well. Yeah, that one. Yeah. I
like the clock's ticking. She's got to get out of that prison pronto. And oh, my dear lady, you must come and have a drink. And what can she do? She can't say. All that works well. I love the old complete bullshit, of course. The little upturned tin tack.
Yes. The tracker.
Yes, with the tracker. A bit high tech for those days. It's a fun episode.
Oh yeah. And I agree with all those highlights. And also I really liked Robert Brown and the having the drink, and again that delaying her escape. I thought his character was particularly well played, and and Harry pretending that she'd sprayed him at the end, and
yes.
I
can't remember whether that was in the script or not. I suspect not. Probably a little shtick they invented, because that does happen all the time.
And I think Kenji pointed out also that the theme of referencing Hiroshima was in a couple of Jerry Anderson projects, so it was one of those recurring things. I think there was people's psyche. I think, you know, because we're not
absolutely
in the 70s, we're not talking about a huge amount of time. You know, it was living memory, wasn't it? So it was very much sort of you know, it was
I was at school during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it was Latin.
And
I think we were doing Cicero, I think. And we knew this was going on. And potentially that could have been World War III and the end of everything, right?
Yeah.
We were all protesting to the master. Oh, sir, you know, what's the point of reading Cicero when the world's about to end? To which he replied, I never forgot, he said, I can't think of any better way to spend the last few minutes of humanity's existence reading the exquisite words of Cicero. Goldsmith, verse 14, pars.
Yeah, that's always yeah.
But we were all, you know, we all lived in, you know.
I did read something recently, apparently, because we got obviously very, very close to annihilation with the Cuban Missile Crisis, but apparently
very close.
Of course, there's many missile silos in Russia, and apparently somebody was told to fire a missile at America, and they said, and one of the people in charge said no. And it were only here because there was somebody who said no, as opposed to, oh yes, sir, I'll do this. And it's amazing.
Yes, he died a few years ago, and there was a long obituary in the Times.
Yeah,
he was I think he was a captain.
Yeah, something
or a major.
Yeah,
and he just didn't do it.
Yeah,
and in fact, he was right, because it had been a mistake. They thought they detected American missiles heading for the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
In fact, it wasn't. I think it was a flock of birds or something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
And he was told to press button A, and he wouldn't do it. And I believe the same thing happened. I seem to remember that because the Russians had nuclear submarines off the coast of Florida. I think one of those guys was told to, and he didn't.
Yeah, the courage of people and to make a stand, and
because once it starts, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
On a slightly lighter note,
yes,
we were talking about writing action sequences, and it occurred to me earlier, but I didn't get a chance to say it. Tom Mankiewicz, he was writing Live and Let Die, the Bond film, and in that film there's a big motorboat chase. And until very, very almost in time of shooting, all it said on that bit of the script was that now begins the biggest, most elaborate boat chase ever filmed. And for many, many drafts, that was all that was there. The director said, a few weeks before, don't you think, Tom, you should write actually what's going to happen in this sequence? So and that was, it was very much sort of the writer in charge of, rather than saying he's the second unit stunt people, go and...
Do you know the famous story of David Lean and Robert Bolt? Lawrence of Arabia? So they're shooting in Morocco. It's lunchtime. Robert Bolt's in his caravan, sweat rolling off him, pounding away at his typewriter. The sweat dripping onto the keys and onto the paper. David Lean in his white suit, fedora hat, puts his head round the corner and says, Robert, dear boy, it's lunch. Well, I haven't got time for lunch, David. He said, my dear, what are you doing? He said, well, Aqaba, when they take Aqaba, it's massive. My dear boy, don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. I've got it all in my head. Come and have lunch. And in the script, this, I don't know, 5-minute sequence with camels leaping and guns going off, all hell breaking loose. In the script, 3 words: they take Aqaba.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes of screen time.
Mm.
No, Lean had the whole thing in his head.
Mm. I suppose it does depend on the relationship with the writer and director, doesn't it, a little bit, in terms of what.
There's another significant, for a screenwriter, story about David Lean.
Mm.
So he's planning his next movie, and a young writer is recommended to him, and he thinks, yeah. So the young writer is terribly excited about David Lean, giant of cinema. So Lean rings him up and says, look, dear boy, this is very exciting. We want to get to know each other a bit. Come and have tea. So he goes round to David Lean's Thameside apartment for tea. And Lean says, now, we all have our methods. I'm sure you have your writing method. I have my methods of making a movie. It's no good giving me 120 pages. I simply can't take it in. What we're going to do is, you'll do 2 or 3 pages. You'll send them to me. I'll read them. You'll come around. We'll have another nice cup of tea, and we'll go through them and make sure they're all fine. And then you'll go away and write another 3 or 4 pages. And it'll all take a very long time, but we're both being paid very handsomely for this. So we've got all the time in the world. And that. So the writer goes home, knocks out 120 pages, and sends the first 3 to David Lean. Gets a phone call a few days later, goes back to Lean's place. They sit down, and Lean gets the pages. Right, well, gosh, so exciting. I love this part of the process. Actually filming is such a bore, but getting the script right, I love all this. Right, well, let's start. Scene 1. Right, so yeah, so he comes down the deck, yeah, like that. Yeah. There, yes, down, and yes, is the bar where, yes, all right. So he, yep, sees him, tiddly widdly widdly, yep. He comes down the stairs, yep, I like that, tiddly widdly. Oh, then, yes, she sees him, excellent, yep. Across the, yep, like that, tiddly widdly widdly. And he goes on like this for about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And the writer says, excuse me, Sir David, tiddly widdly widdly? Tiddly widdly widdly was the dialogue.
Oh dear.
Because Lean thought in terms of what's on the screen.
Yeah.
Angles, the faces, the shot. Tiddly widdly 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 widdly, which is the dialogue. Who cares about the dialogue? He was going to tell the story.
Yeah.
With images. And Alfred Hitchcock always said, if you're relying on the dialogue to tell the story, forget it, they'll never understand.
Yeah, I suppose a visual medium has to be driven by the visuals.
Exactly.
Compared to TV, you know.
In one of Hitchcock's films, it's a marvelous story of this. I think it was some huge Hollywood actor. In a Hitchcock type story, or any detective story, or any kind of adventure story, there comes a moment where character A has to explain to character B what's happened so far, right? And this is, you have to get around this in some way. And it's very difficult. So there are 2 classic examples of Hitchcock. One is Cary Grant, say, is telling Inspector something. Everything that's happened so far. And they're in a theatre. And there are swing doors with portholes. And the writer had written half a page of dialogue And Hitchcock has said to Cary Grant, "I'm sorry, dear, you've got to learn this absolutely. You've got to deliver it because we haven't got time to. The audience has seen all this, but they don't need to be told because they know, right? So just belt it out." So he spent days getting this absolutely pat, belted it out, and then saw the rushes and realized that Hitchcock has shot the scene through the porthole in the door. So all you could see was, you couldn't hear a word of what Cary Grant was saying. Because he didn't need to.
Right.
All you needed to know as an audience was that he told the policeman.
Yeah.
You didn't need to hear it.
Mm.
And the other classic, I think, was North by Northwest, exactly the same situation. Listen, you've got to help because and I met the thing and they're about to. And he shot that as they walked towards an aeroplane. And Hitchcock had an aeroplane take off. So all that dialogue was drowned by a great aeroplane engine taking off.
Yeah.
So again, you saw that he'd given the information, but you didn't need to hear it.
No.
Because you knew it.
And you needed
But you needed the audience to know that the police now knew.
Yeah.
You didn't need to hear him tell the police everything he knew because you knew it already because you'd been watching the movie.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, I suppose you needed the actor to learn something.
Yeah, it wouldn't work unless the actor was.
Yeah, needed to look
natural. It worked.
Yeah. I was wondering when it came to Balance of Terror, because there'd been a bit of a different, a bit of a time between, because Brotherhood was only the second episode, where Balance of Terror was a bit further on in the run. Were you able to tailor the script a bit more to the show, the actors? Did you feel you had a bit more? There was an added element to it at that point.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And when you're writing for Robert Vaughan, when you're writing a specific actor, do you watch previous episodes, or perhaps are you just aware of the other work to sort of inform you a little bit?
Yes, I mean it's not. I mean, it's really not very difficult. These are not character-driven shows.
No.
You know, you've got to give Robert Vaughan the main. He's the clever, all-knowing one. You've got to give the Contessa enough to keep her on board. Hence, she's the one who says, no, who says Hiroshima? I think she does. Or is it Tony who says it?
Not sure, but you're right. It's a mathematical thing if people need a certain number of lines. And
yeah, so it isn't Harry rules. Oh, Hiroshima, of course.
Yeah.
You give a little bit to work with the other characters.
Yeah.
I mean, in the New Avengers, the major task for the writers was finding something of a gambit to do every episode.
Yeah, because you either had to put Purdy and Steed or Purdy and Gambit. You had to separate the three of them a lot of the time because you needed the A-B story, but also, of course, you needed enough for everybody to bounce off and do.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you have any favourite moments of Balance of Terror that we haven't mentioned, or favourite scenes, again, that popped out at you?
I thought the actor, the scene where he's sort of, and again, don't ask about the logic here, please, turns up at the kind of seminar of scientists and gives his sort of address, which is the kind of nub of the show. I thought he did that really well.
Yes.
Great sort of sincerity.
Yeah.
And it was a very good speech. I don't know who wrote it, but very good speech. And it was just about the right length, I thought. You know, it was long enough so you could believe that, you know, it's 4 sentences. Nobody does anything in 4 sentences at that kind of meeting.
No.
If he droned on for 10 minutes, you know, the whole show would have. So yeah, I thought that was very good. I like the end. Very good. I always giggle, smile, the action sequence by the by the reservoir. Bollocks leaping over here, completely meaningless. It makes me smile. Yeah, no, it's I like the moment where they realize that he will have been hiding in the last place they think to look.
Yes, there's a
scoured London with their hidden army of who knows who. In those days, you could assume now somebody would say, well, who are all these people? Asking taxi drivers, how many thousands of operatives have they got? Let's see all that. You didn't need to in those days.
Yeah.
It's like the saint. Wherever the saint went in the world, he knew somebody.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Always knew somebody. I haven't seen you for years. Hey, can you help me out with it? Oh, yeah. I always knew somebody.
I think for me, my favourite bits of the episode is probably the relationship between Nigel Green and Robert Vaughan, and particularly when they're looking over London and the trains go behind them and they're sort of talking about how we are, the same, and we have our same values.
That's a nice scene. Yes,
important bit, and I think anything of Lawrence Naismith and him, you can see the almost conflict and sort of knowing he's not a bad person. He just feels that that and it's a bit reminiscent, I think, of Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, where the villain in that one wants to set off a nuclear weapon to create an era of peace. By doing something horrible, you get a good level of peace afterwards because people want to avoid it. So villains that aren't really villains are always, I think, perhaps the most interesting.
Yes. He's on a kind of philosophical mission.
Yeah. And Ben says that it was very Hitchcockian.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
I should have been driving the train. Hitchcock would have been driving the train.
Yes, I think he would have done.
Or I should have walked past with a poodle on a lead or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting just to note that the Banzerterre was broadcast on the 8th of December 1972. So we are days from its actual 50th anniversary of that one. I thought that was rather
right.
I suppose if going back to lessons in screenwriting things, I suppose try and write something for a 24-minute show where you're just doing it. There's not a wasted line, there's not a wasted moment because you've got such a small.
Yeah.
Things at different lengths, I suppose, would be a thing as well. I think Ben also asked about if you were going to write for the Protectors now. I mean, what do you think the show? I suppose bringing it to a 50-minute length would probably be the obvious thing to do in terms of bringing it into the.
I think the Protectors. You could do a 1 hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it more complex.
Yeah.
And have a proper B story and a C story and all that. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
And so how does the 2 episodes...
But the concept is very... it's one of the problems with The Saint we had.
Yeah.
The notion of chaps and women with large private incomes.
Yes.
Saving the world every week. Kind of went right out.
Yeah, I suppose it... Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sort of the talented amateur, with a huge private income, travel first class. It all got much grittier in the 70s.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think even nowadays, I think with the way the way it's for most people is that it's kind of a bit. If you do have money, you don't flash it around anymore. I think it's sort of almost offensive to have money almost in a way. So you couldn't have the billion, like the Persuaders was millionaires again having fun. Batman, of course, Bruce Wayne. There is certainly a theme of that.
But Batman's very interesting. You're probably too young to remember the original Batman TV series.
Oh, Adam West.
With Adam West, which was a spoof. I mean, it was hilarious.
Yes,
it just sent itself up all the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And now I mean, now, the latest, The Batman, I watched, I don't know, 30 minutes of it and abandoned it. I mean, it was so dark and lugubrious, doom-laden, and pseudo-psychological. Oh, God help us. I just... And convoluted. The middle period, and the three who was it who directed them?
Christopher Nolan.
Yes, they were excellent. I mean, there was a darkness, there was a kind of some real psychological exploration there. He went into the fact, the parents had been killed, and poor old Bruce, being orphaned, etc. But the level was kept high enough. They were interesting movies, apart from being spectacles and Batman triumphing. But now, I mean, it's not what you want in a Batman movie, is it?
Well, I think, again, going back to how things are shot, the Batman is, almost pitch black in terms of its color palette. You
absolutely, yes.
Any day, you'd be like, I can't see a thing.
I couldn't see a thing. I couldn't hear anything either. They were all...
It's a very atmospheric film, and yeah, I love the Adam West series and all Batman in a way, but yeah, they've all got a certain appeal to them. But yes, I do see what you mean.
The greatest scene in the original Batman, it's a foot chase, and Batman and Robin are herring along, right, about to run across a road, where Batman stops him, says, "Now, Robin, here are the 3 rules for crossing a road. You got to look right, you left." Message to the audience, all you kids out there. Okay, yes, Batman, I got it. Off they go. It was stuff like, it was satirical. It was lovely.
Oh yeah, you can't.
I love that show.
And I like the bat dance that Batman did in one of the episodes, and John Travolta copied it for Pulp Fiction.
Yes, yes. And the one enduring feature of Batman, which I've always enjoyed, is, especially in the TV series, where he was frequently bound hand and foot, crucified, held with hooks and metal. Nobody ever takes the mask off. Ever.
No, they don't, do they?
It's the first thing I'd do.
Yeah.
I've got him. Off with him. It's Bruce Wayne. Fucking Bruce Wayne. He was at a cocktail party I was at last Thursday. It's Bruce Wayne. But oh no, never take the mask off.
And I think we shouldn't say too much about Superman, the glasses, and that being the only thing. His identity.
Yeah.
I suppose there's certain rules in. I think if you look at something, any story, you could sort of see where the holes are, but of course, as a writer, you kind of got to sometimes ignore those, because you've got to get the story out. You've got to. We could all probably talk ourselves out.
Yes, yes. I mean, like, where the hell did Professor, what's his name, get a brand new rover to drive to the reservoir in?
Yeah.
No, if it was a 1-hour show, you might, it might be interesting to tease that out.
Yeah.
Give him an accomplice who at the last minute panics and tries to stop him or something. But there isn't room in 24 minutes.
No, definitely not. And how would you say the Protector sits in your body of work? Is it something that you're quite proud of, and how you got started?
Well, yes. I mean, it's something I have enormous affection for and gratitude. I got paid.
Oh, it was a plus, yeah.
Got a couple of credits. I was there.
And it must have been quite nice, a young writer, to write lines for people like Robert Vaughan and to think, well, this is, he's saying.
Yeah.
So, and because I think the Protectors is something I don't mean it's known very well in America, but I think in the UK it's quite popular. But like a lot of people, you watch Robert Vaughan in Bullet and Man from Uncle, and
yeah, but this
series.
was high grade casting in the 1970s. I mean, Nairo Dawn Porter was a big star.
Oh yeah.
And Vaughan, you know, was an American. Everything was about America then, especially with Lou. He had dreams of creating a sort of American style business, which he did.
Yeah. I'm not sure when Robert Vaughan's love affair with the UK started, because he was well known for working in the UK, and maybe it might have been on the Protectors, doing 2 seasons of.
Yes, well, he was very civilized, Vaughan. I mean, he was very sort of well-read, civilized man.
Yeah, well, he had a PhD, didn't he? And he was very into political. And he came over to do Hustle, of course. It was a long-running UK series, and did stage work as well. He did 12 Angry Men, that I was enough to see him in the West End.
Fine actor.
Yeah, and I saw him twice doing the same role. He was 18 months, I think he was in that, which is quite unheard of for. And I think he used to always love to stay at the Ritz, and you know, and why not? You know, so it was
as one did in those days. Yes.
It was nice to see him on stage, and he would come out the stage door and he would sign things and talk. I mean, he would rush off pretty quickly, but he would stop and the occasional. So
don't forget, in those days, in television, you were well paid.
Oh yeah,
especially if you were Robert Vaughan. But it wasn't crazy money. I mean, now it's bonkers money people get.
Well,
makes it very difficult to get anything up and running.
Yeah, I think at this time of his career, of course, he did Man from Uncle, Bullet, and this is kind of probably in his sort of, because again, TV I don't think was seen as, like it is now, more of an equal medium. It was kind of sort of maybe slightly.
Oh, it was
step down for him, really, perhaps.
Oh, TV writers were second-class citizens.
Yeah.
In the writing world.
So to try and make that, which of course you eventually did, go into movies and things, you get kind of a bit boxed in if you're seen as being not as.
Here's a story about that. Years later, I did a thing called Coming Home, adaptation of a Rosamund Pilcher novel, and we got Peter O'Toole, who really hadn't been working. He was desperate for money, and we paid him a lot of money. And he delivered a fantastic performance. And the show was so successful and so popular that they commissioned a sequel. Rosamund hadn't written a sequel, so I wrote it.
Yeah.
And a main role was for Peter O'Toole. And he vanished. He just vanished. Script was done, cast, but couldn't be found anywhere. Panic. All the producers, we had German producers and Americans, they all came to London. We all sat down and wondered, what do we do? We can't find Peter. Do we recast or rewrite? And the decision was taken to rewrite. So, and I felt I could see the practical reasons in that everybody was saying, well, you can't recast Peter O'Toole. Everybody remembers Peter O'Toole in this role. And I thought, well, maybe not. Anyway, so I said, we'll rewrite. And this has passed into legend, this phrase. And they said, well, how are you going to do this, John? I said, well, there's only one way of doing it. Face down in the snow. I said, what? I said, opening shot. Man face down in the snow, dressed like Peter O'Toole. We kill him off in the first 10 seconds of the show.
Yeah.
It's all about the grief and the face down in the snow has become a kind of legendary phrase for bumping off characters. And later I learnt various things I won't go into. Reason Peter O'Toole vanished. He was at some party, and one of his fellow thespians said, "Oh, Peter, hello. I see you're doing television now." And Peter's ego,
yeah,
he vanished. And that snobbery has actually been completely, not completely, but almost completely annihilated by the Netflixes and Amazons and all that, the streamers who are hiring the top film directors, top film actors to do stuff. And the quality of television has gone up and up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
And the quality of feature films has gone down and down and down and down and down and down and down. And now television is kind of the new cinema.
Yeah, I think you're right that things like Star Wars, the films, there's more TV and there's more Star Wars on TV. There does seem to be a little bit of a shift from a lot of things. And
I mean, the reason, one of the reasons is the studios would rather spend, I don't know, 600 million on a Marvel type bit of bollocks than 3 million on an interesting independent movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, the quality of cinema has just, so that kind of 5 to 10 million pound really interesting film with really interesting themes, really interesting direction, hard to find. They're mainly foreign now. South Korea, terrific movies coming out of South Korea. The French have completely lost the plot. All they do is comedies nobody wants to watch. Comedy doesn't travel very well, especially French comedy.
Right.
The Germans seem to have given up. Scandinavia, we've always had enough of it. You know, it's
interesting times, isn't it, really?
Yeah. It's everything comes round.
Oh, yeah. Your story of Peter O'Toole reminded me in Doctor Who when Colin Baker refused to come back to film his regeneration scene for perfectly legitimate reasons. He had, to not want to return. So what they did was they just stuck Sylvester McCoy in a wig, put him on the floor, and just put some special effects over him, and they did it that way. So it does happen quite a bit.
Listen, my battery's about to die.
Oh, okay. Well, I will let you go, John. So, well, thank you very much for taking time to.
Not at all. It's been lovely.
Really, really good.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll meet again on the Return of the Saint. Yes.
Saint. Yes, I'll keep you updated. Excellent.
Remind me to tell you the story of the village that sold its soul.
I will indeed. Well, until then, John, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
And good luck with your writing, Ben.
Yeah, good luck, Ben.
Okay.
Take care, John.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.